Imagine the time when child marriage and sati system were prevalent in India. What a difficult time it would have been. But presently these practices have been banned, and still there are certain customs that are considered as a law in our present days. For example, saptapadi during marriage, that is Saath Fere. So if we have a look at our present modern Hindu law, then these are categorized into 4 acts. So these are the 4 categories in which our Hindu law has been divided that we still study. So these laws that have been brought or drafted, what was the background of these laws? How did they take birth? What was the logic behind these? In order to understand each and every question like this, we need to study sources of Hindu law. So hello everyone, I am Kakoli, and in this video we will be discussing some most important sources of Hindu law. But before moving ahead, if you have keen interest in studying family law, then do not forget to enroll with our course on family law by visiting learn.phonology.in. So let's begin with our video. Let's take help of this timeline to understand the sources of Hindu law. The very first source was Shruti, and it is created by God himself, which kept on transmitting from one generation to another orally, because it was created by Lord Brahma. Then came Smritis, in which the knowledge from these Shrutis that were remembered by sages in their memories were written down by them, which was again transmitted. Then these Shrutis and Smritis were compiled together to form law, which is known as digest and commentaries. So the practices from these that continued for a longer period of time became customs and usages. India then, when came under the British control, brought court system in India, thus making judgments a part of this, and then the legislations also formed the part of our Hindu law. Now, let's discuss these main sources with this timeline one by one, and we will move from ancient period to modern period. Shrutis constitutes 4 Veds, but remember one thing, that synonym for Shrutis is Veds only. So it constituted Rigved, Yajurved, Samved and Atharved. Apart from Shrutis, there are 6 Vedangas and 108 Upanishads. Actually, more than 200 Upanishads have been discovered by far. Upanishads are Sanatan Dharma, that means sitting down near, where students used to sit near their teachers or instructors who used to provide them with spiritual knowledge. Therefore, these are basically concluding portions of Veds only. There are many Upanishads, but only few of them are recognized that are part of these Veds. Then there is Vedangas. This helps us in writing, reading, and enchanting the Ved mantras and shloks. And remember that Veds will always prevail over Vedangas. Apart from these, there are Upveds. Every Ved has its own Upved also, which are Dhanurved, Gandharved, Ayurved, and Shilpved. Out of these 4, Ayurved, that is medical science, still exists. Many sages wrote a lot of books which constituted usage of herbs, etc., to treat many diseases. Hence, these Upveds are subsidiaries of Veds only. There are mainly 3 deities: Brahma the creator, Vishnu the protector, and Mahesh the destroyer. So, it is believed that these Veds were firstly drafted by Lord Brahma, or maybe it was drafted by sages upon the command of Lord Brahma, whatever the case may be. Therefore, there is no author of these Vedas or Shrutis. So, the word Shru in Shrutis means to hear. Basically, the time period during which Shrutis existed didn't had any written material available. Writing was not developed at that time. So this knowledge of Veds used to get transmitted orally from one generation to another. And this knowledge kept on getting more advanced with each generation. Out of these 4 Veds, only 3 were recognized earlier. Atharved was added later on. These Veds doesn't constitute any law within it. These merely talked about dharma, which means it only stated about how to live your life and gave a basic structure of the society. That family is a unit with its head being called Grihapati. Griha means house. So, Smritis that we are talking about, what it actually constitutes. Smritis are mainly of three types. The first one is Manusmriti. So, this was authored by Manu. Like I told you, that Smritis, unlike Shrutis, have authors who have written them. So Manusmriti was written by Manu, and this Smriti gave special status to Brahmins, but it recognized no rights for women and Shudras. And remember that the knowledge from this Smriti was also transmitted orally from one generation to another. Then the second Smriti is the Yajnavalkya Smriti. Now this Smriti came during the period of Buddha and Vikramaditya. This Smriti was a bit more concise and liberal as compared to Manu Smriti because it recognized few rights for women like right to inheritance and gave a bit better status to the Shudras. Then came the Narad Smriti. Now Narad Smriti was written by Narad, who was a Nepali sage. This Smriti was the most open-minded and liberal from the rest of the two Smritis because it gave widow the rights to remarry. That is, it recognized the rights of the widow for remarriage. So you can imagine that at that particular point of time, to recognize widows' remarriage was a huge thing because it was considered a taboo at that point of time. So Narad Smriti was the most liberal one. So this was all about Shrutis and Smritis, but there was no such thing as law inside them. Shrutis merely talked about how to live your life, or it gave the basic structure of the society, and Smritis merely talked about the individual's rights. But there was no legal backing to it. There was no such thing as law in it. So India needed a very stringent and tight laws. So that's why there came digest and commentaries. So Shrutis and Smritis combined formed a law which was known as digest and commentary. So here we have arrived at our next source. Now let's have a look at our next source, which is digest and commentaries. So these Shrutis and Smritis didn't provide for any laws. They just merely talked about how to live life and provided for the rights that were transmitted orally. So there was no legal backing. So because of the need of a law, digest and commentaries came into existence. So digest and commentaries covered the whole of Shrutis and Smritis and divided them into two categories, Mitakshara and Dayabhaga. So Mitakshara means a short compendium. The Mitakshara commentary was given by Vijnaneshwara in 11th century, which was based on Yajnavalkya Smriti, and this commentary gave lesser rights to women, whereas Dayabhaga was given by Jimutvahana during 12th century, and this commentary was not based on any specific Smriti or Shruti. It was a digest of all codes, and it recognized more rights for women. Now that you know that in 11th and 12th century Mitakshara and Dayabhaga came, so during this period, India developed different states, and each state had their own customs to be followed by all. So these opened their own schools. Hence we have arrived at schools of Hindu law. So there were mainly five schools: Mithila school, Banaras school, Dravid school, Maharashtra school, and Bengal school. These first four schools followed Mitakshara, whereas Bengal school was the only school that followed Dayabhaga. So in short, Mitakshara and Dayabhaga were the digest of Shrutis and Smritis only. Digest means compilation or collection, and their versions were followed by these schools. So we have completed Shrutis and Smritis. Apart from these, customs and usages. Now this custom generally means any crystallized practice which is followed by a community or group for a considerable period of time. And an example for this can be that in previous years, child marriage used to be a custom in the state of Rajasthan, which is obviously now banned. Or the way we greet any guest by doing namaste or by touching their feet, it's all our custom only. Usage is different from customs. Don't forget this. Usage generally refers to repetitive acts, and when this repetitive acts continues for a longer period of time, which is followed by people at large, then it becomes customs. Now we have arrived at our next source of Hindu law, which is judicial decisions and legislations. So we are moving towards the modern part now, where India is now under the British control, and Britishers brought these courts in India, and their decisions became the precedents. And then came the legislations as well, whose main purpose was to bring a uniform law in India. So, in order to bring reformation in our society, few of the reformatory legislations were promulgated, like Caste Disabilities Removal Act, Hindu Widows Remarriage Act, Special Marriage Act, etc. In 1944, under the chairmanship of Sir B.N. Rao, a Hindu committee was formed, and the main objective of this Hindu committee was to form a uniform code for all Hindus in India. So later on, a draft code was also established, but the Hindus at that point of time didn't support this and stated that if a uniform code is brought, then it will definitely hit our sacred laws. So that's why Jawaharlal Nehru finally dropped this idea of bringing a uniform code. Actually, this uniform code was supposed to be brought so that this Mitakshara and Daya Bhaga can be omitted. So Jawaharlal Nehru dropped this, and do you know that offended by this, B.R. Ambedkar in 1951 resigned from his post as law minister. So after all these issues and struggles, yet a common code was passed that was divided into 4 acts: Hindu Marriage Act, Hindu Succession Act, Hindu Minority and Guardianship Act, Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act. So these 4 acts were based on the fundamentals of Mitakshara and Daya Bhaga only. And Mitakshara and Daya Bhaga obviously constitutes the Shrutis and Smritis as well. So based on the fundamentals of these, our 4 laws have been drafted. So this was all about the main sources of Hindu law. So I hope you have understood this topic. If you want to get similar kind of updates or more information on recent and upcoming events or any static topics, then you can subscribe to our new channel Learn with Phonology, and do not forget to press the bell icon. Thank you so much. Bye bye.